Hey y'all, my alarm just went off. And you know what it told me? It's story time. It's story time, 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 it's story time with Uncle Scotty. Remember that song? I love it too. It's my ringtone on my phone. Same phone that had the alarm. Hey, welcome to Story Time with Uncle Scotty. I am your host, Uncle Scotty. Got our own mugs. Hot today. Tea. Thank you all for joining Storytime. We're excited to announce we have a sponsor, Storytime with Uncle Scotty, brought to you by time. Because when it's story time, there's nothing to spice it up like time. Also, I put my trusty glasses on, getting some great feedback from viewers. If you have any feedback, please send it over via some DMs, some text messages, some WhatsApp messages, YouTube comments, email, a letter by post, whatever you prefer. Or just yell it at the TV, or computer screen, or phone. I can hear it, I promise. Want to give a special happy birthday to Brian, young Brian. Big birthday on Saturday. Had a house party, which is exciting. Maybe some video games in there, maybe some burgers, maybe some cake. Who knows? But Brian, we love you. Thanks for watching. And also, young Claudia asks why I am Uncle Scotty when these are online and it's for everybody and not just my grandchildren. It's a great question. One that will be debated until the end of time, I think. I think the deal is I would love to be seen as everyone's uncle who reads fun stories. And so I'm just going to live like that, Claudia, if that's okay. I hope it's okay. You let me know if it's okay or not. Anyway, sorry to be wasting all this time. If you recall, we were reading James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. And we had just left off at the place where James had gone to sleep in his hammock that was spun by Miss Spider. And the old green grasshoppers had said goodnight. And he was saying goodnight to all of his new friends, or these new creatures. And they were going to find out what happens tomorrow. So why don't we find out what happens tomorrow? But let's find out now. Let's find out today. Okay, chapter 14. We're off, someone was shouting. We're off at last. James woke up with a jump and looked about him. The creatures were all out on their hammocks and moving excitedly around the room. Suddenly, the floor gave a great heave as though an earthquake were taking place. I'm in California, so this is going to be real, but it's not. As though an earthquake were taking place. Here we go! Shouted the old green grasshopper, hopping up and down in excitement. Hold on tight! What's happening? Cried James, leaping out of his hammock. What's going on? The ladybug, who was obviously a kind and gentle creature, came over and stood beside him. In case you don't know, she said, we are about to depart forever from the top of this ghastly hill that we've all been living on for so long. We are about to roll away inside this great, beautiful peach to a land of what? Asked James. Never you mind, said the ladybug. But nothing could be worse than this desolate hilltop and those two repulsive ants of yours. Hear, hear, they all shouted. Hear, hear. You may not have noticed it, the ladybug went on, but the whole garden, even before it reaches the steep edge of the hill, happens to be on a steep slope. And therefore, the only thing that has been stopping this peach from rolling away right from the beginning is the thick stem attaching it to a tree. Break the stem, and off we go. Watch it, cried Miss Spider as the room gave another violent lurch. Here we go. Not quite, not quite. At this moment, continued the ladybug, our centipede, who has a pair of jaws as sharp as razors, is up there on top of the peach, nibbling away at that stem. In fact, he must be nearly through it, as you can tell from the way we're lurching about. Would you like me to take you under my wing so you won't fall over when we start rolling? That's very kind of you, said James, but I think I'll be all right. Just then, the centipede stuck his grinning face through a hole in the ceiling and shouted, I've done it! We're off! We're off! The others cried. We're off! The journey begins! Shouted the centipede. Here you can see a crude drawing of the centipede with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of how many of his legs? 100? Nope. 42 legs. Through the hole at the top of the peach where he was just chewing the peach stem. "And who knows where it will end?" muttered the earthworm. "If you have anything to do with it, it can only mean trouble." "Nonsense," said the ladybug. "We are about to visit the most marvelous place and see the most wonderful things. Isn't that so, Centipede?" "There is no knowing what we shall see," cried the Centipede. "We may see a creature with 49 heads who lives in the desolate snow. And whenever he catches a cold, which he dreads, he has 49 noses to blow. We may see the venomous pink-spotted scrunch, who can chew up the man with one bite. He likes to eat 5 of them roasted for lunch and 18 for his supper at night. We may see a dragon, and nobody knows that we won't see a unicorn there. We may see a terrible monster with toes growing out of the tufts of his hair. We may see the sweet little bitty bright hen, so playful, so kind, well-bred. And such beautiful eggs! Just boil them and then they explode and blow off your head. A gnu, an rhinoceros, surely you'll see, and that enormous and horrible gnat, whose sting, when it stings, goes in at your knee and comes out through the top of your hat. We may even get lost and be frozen by frost. We may die in an earthquake or a tremor. Or nastier still, we may have been tossed on the horns of a furious dilemma. But who cares? Let us go from this horrible bill. No, let us go from this horrible hill. Let us roll, let us bowl, let us plunge. Let's go rolling and bowling and spinning until we're away from old Spiker and Sponge. 1 second later. Slowly, insidiously, that's a big word. Creepy, insidious, like something's about to happen. It's insidious. 1 second later, slowly, insidiously, and oh, most gently, the great peach started to lean forward and steal into motion. The whole room began to tilt over. And all the furniture went sliding across the floor and crashed against the far wall. So did James and the ladybug and the old green grasshopper and Miss Spider and the earthworm, also the centipede, who had just come slithering quickly down the wall. Shall we go on? Shall we do one more? I'll do one more. Let me take a sip of my tea out of our mugs. Great song by the centipede, right? Great song, great poem, great song. Chapter 15. Outside in the garden at that very moment, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker had just taken their places at the front gate, each with a bunch of tickets in her hand, and the first stream of early morning sightseers was visible in the distance, climbing up the hill to view the peach. Remember, these people are paying money to see the peach. "We shall make a fortune today," Aunt Spiker was saying. "Just look at all those people." "I wonder what became of that horrible little boy of ours last night," Aunt Sponge said. "He never did come back in, did he?" "He probably fell down in the dark and broke his leg," Aunt Spiker said. "Or his neck, possibly," Aunt Sponge said hopefully. "Just wait till I get my hands on him," Aunt Spiker said, waving her cane. "He'll never want to stay out all night again by the time I've finished with him. Good gracious me, what's that awful noise?" Both women swung around to look. The noise, of course, had been caused by the giant peach crashing through the fence that surrounded it. And now, gathering speed every second, it came rolling across the garden towards the place where Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker were standing. Here you can see them. They should be ashamed of themselves. But you know what? They gaped. They screamed. They started to run. They panicked. They kept panicking. They tried to find their page in the book as fast as they could. They both got in each other's way. They began pushing and jostling, and each of them was thinking only about saving herself. Selfish. Aunt Sponge, the fat one, tripped over a box that she'd brought along to keep all the money in and fell flat on her face. Aunt Spiker immediately tripped over Aunt Sponge, because she's big, and came down on top of her. They both laid on the ground, fighting and clawing and yelling and struggling frantically to get up again. But before they could do this, the mighty Peach was upon them. There was a crunch. And then there was a silence. The Peach rolled on, and behind it, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker laid ironed out on the grass as flat and thin and lifeless as a couple of paper dolls cut out of a picture book. Wow. And that's where we'll leave it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in for Storytime with Uncle Scotty. I have been your host, Storytime with Uncle Scotty. I have been your host, Uncle Scotty. Did that twice just for fun. We have our own mugs. Also, thank you to our sponsor, Rubbed Thyme from Kroger. Appreciate all the support. And don't forget to wash your hands, as always. Always wash your hands and smile if you feel like it. I feel like it, because you're here. Hey, cool. See you soon.